I want to read you a little excerpt from a New York Times piece. The title of the article is called "How Much Racism Do You Face in Your Daily Life?" And this is what the New York Times writes. They say, in "How Much Racism Do You Face Every Day?" Amy Harmon writes about the experiences of 101 Black teenagers in Washington, D.C. who were surveyed about how much racism they experience on a daily basis. This is what Amy Harmon writes. She goes, collectively, the 101 Black teens participating in the study reported more than 5,600 experiences of racial discrimination over 2 weeks. That boils down to an average of more than 5 instances per day for each teenager. That's more than 70 over 2 weeks. So I want to ask you, not just for a generalized response to this, but I want to ask you, has this been your experience? Is this an accurate portrayal of what life is like in the United States for a young Black person?
I can't speak to their personal experiences on the matter, but I'm going to speculate and say, no, that's not the experience. And something that they do very tactfully is convince you that things that on their own are not racist whatsoever suddenly have this sort of underlying unconscious racism to them. I was told so often as a kid that people who asked me about my skin color were racist. Kids who had seen my hair and went, oh, well, that's hair I haven't seen before. Can I touch it? That was something that was racist. It represented a microaggression. Kids who talked to me and said, oh, well, your mom is white and you're Black. How did that happen? That was racism. We're now convincing people that these small acts of human curiosity or just questions and statements are somehow a representation of racism in this country. And it's because we no longer have, to the same extent that we had in, like, say, the 1950s, these acts of blatant racism, like somebody coming up to you and calling you the N-word or saying that you shouldn't be educated because you're a Black person in America. There's very seldom instances of that sort of racism. And because we don't have that to lean on anymore, the left creates new forms of racism, these ideas of unconscious bias and microaggressions, and convinces these young Black kids that that is the world that they're living in, that these are the barriers that are set in place for them from the moment they're born. And it is truly horrifying because I grew up in a rural, conservative, small town in Florida, which should have been, according to the left, the hotbed for systemic racism. I didn't experience an ounce of it, but because I had been indoctrinated, because I had been told all these things throughout my childhood, I was convinced that America was racist, even though I hadn't experienced it. And I have a feeling that's what's happening with a lot of Black people and people of color in America right now.